Greetings, everyone. So about 2.5 months ago, I got my second cochlear implant, and today I just wanted to tell you how it went. So if you're thinking about getting a second CI, or you're, again, just still kind of checking out this whole thing, I'm just going to tell you some things that I learned the second time around. The first thing I learned was just because your first surgery went a certain way doesn't necessarily mean the second one is going to go the same way. Now, my first surgery went really well. No issues, no hiccups. My recovery was pretty easy and fairly quick. Now, my second surgery actually went fine. We had no problems, but my recovery was different. I don't know if it's because I had surgery in the winter this time. I live in a place that actually gets cold in the winter, so maybe it made things a little more painful, but that was the first big thing that was different. It was more painful this time, the recovery was. First time around, I needed like the actual pain meds maybe a day, and this time I really needed them that first good solid week. My first surgery, I remember I would have this like deep wave of pain and then it would kind of back off. My second surgery, it's kind of like that was on a loop. It just was it was much more persistent the second time around. And even after I stopped the actual pain meds and switched to Tylenol, I had to take that a little bit longer than I had to the first time. I also had like a lot more drainage this time in my throat, which I didn't have the first time. So my recovery went fine. It's just that it just took a little longer and hurt a little more. But my incision actually healed faster. It healed very, very quickly. And what's funny about the second time around is the first time I was a little bit freaked out about like my head, even like where the bulge is in my head with the implant. And this time around, I didn't even think about it. I'm like, yep, it's going to be like that. It's going to be swollen, for quite a while. I didn't even think about it. The second thing is I really had to get used to the true sound of silence. So I was already pretty much almost completely deaf by the time I had this surgery because, yes, I was progressively getting deaf due to Meniere's disease, but after I had my first surgery on the other side, when you do have cochlear implant surgery, it can damage your residual natural hearing. For me, that was never an issue because Meniere's disease destroyed my natural hearing. It was so distorted. I was like really happy to like have it go. I needed it to go so that I could have my CIs not be distracted by that. So going into my second surgery, I had a tiny bit of little residual on my other side. And then after this second surgery, I'm almost pretty much stone cold deaf if I take my processors off. The other morning, I was finishing getting ready and I didn't realize I'd left the hairdryer on. And I was like, why is the room getting really warm? And it's because I left it on and I couldn't hear it. And hairdryers are pretty loud. Now, I do have a tiny little bit of shred of high-end hearing. If you were to put that hairdryer up to my ear, like right directly in my ear, I would probably hear just a little bit of a shred of high-end. So once we're talking like 80, 90 decibels, probably, yeah, I'm probably going to hear a little shred of that. But I had to really get used to the sound of true silence. And honestly, I had kind of been working up to that anyway, so it wasn't quite as jarring, but that's something that you might want to be ready for. And for some people, it really, it freaks people out. Since I've kind of had a gradual ramping into this complete silence, it's actually something that I've really learned to enjoy and love. But just be ready for that. There's a chance that, once you have the surgery and certainly once you have both sides done, that you really could be ratcheting down to just pretty much being completely deaf. And the third thing that was different this time is I realized that it's okay to ask for help. First of all, if you're doing the surgery by yourself, don't worry. You can do this. You can absolutely do the recovery by yourself. But if you do have an option, if you have someone in the house in your life that can help you out a little bit, it's great. Go ahead and ask for help. For the first 13, 14 days, my doctor said I had to, clean that incision daily behind my ear. So you have to spray hydrogen peroxide and then, put Neosporin on it. That's a little tricky to do by yourself. It's not impossible, but at first your ear is going to be so numb, you're not going to be able to feel. Like if you were to, put a glove on, put the Neosporin on and go like this, you may not feel like where you're putting it. You can do it, but if you can have someone help you, that's great. So I definitely let my husband help more with that. I even let him help wash my hair. That's a little bit tricky. It's trickier for me because I actually still have to put a Vaseline ear plug in my other ear because I have a hole in that eardrum. That's a long story. I'll talk about that in another video. But just, your head's going to be swollen and hurting. And if washing your hair is important to you after you get released to do that, it's actually kind of helpful to have someone do it for you so you don't have to worry about accidentally bumping your ear. But overall, I'm really happy. And in the next video, I'll tell you how I'm hearing. We'll talk about my activation and mapping and what's different now. But I will say, just for the sake of just the surgery, things ended up going well. But I guess the moral of the story is if this isn't your first rodeo, if you already have one CI, just keep an open mind. You might have done really... I have a cat helping me out now. Are you going to help in the video? So the moral of the story is, if your first surgery went great, it doesn't necessarily mean your second one's going to go the same way, and vice versa. You may have had a really tough recovery your first time around. Doesn't necessarily mean that's going to happen again. For me, something that was the same is, I really didn't have super, super bad vertigo after either surgery, and I'm thankful for that. So bottom line is, if you're considering this a second time around, keep an open mind and just, be ready for anything that happens, I suppose. So talk to me in the comments. Are you considering doing this a second time around? Again, I have no regrets. I'm about to talk about that in another video, and I'll see you soon.